Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our much awaited webinar on data privacy and intellectual property rights, a webinar for the digital age organized by the Graduate School of Business Administration faculty and the Student Council officers. I am Randy I. Nonato, your Vice President and Executive Board Trustee of your MBA BBA Executive Board of San Pablo Colleges. I'll be your host for today's session. Once again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Please be reminded that we will be giving out certificates of recognition and participation to all participants. Kindly check out our Zoom chat facility at the end of the session for the certificate link. At this point, may I introduce to you the members of our executive board. And as you see on the screen, we have the esteemed and distinguished ladies and gentlemen who diligently work hard for all of us for San Pablo Colleges. May I present to you the executive board. The other half of the screen shows our activities for academic year 2022 to 2023. We do hope to see each and every one of you in each of the activities, and we are looking forward to your endless support. Before we start, may we remind everyone to kindly mute their respective gadgets so as to have a smooth flow of our activity for today. Thank you so much for your cooperation. So, once again, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, guests, our executive board, and of course, our activities for the year. As you know, in any activity, most especially in this challenging health crisis, we have to give credit where credit is due, and that is to thank the Almighty for our health and, of course, for our gathering today. With that, to lift us up to the Lord this afternoon, may we have Dr. Mary Rose Valenzuela.
Paano pa din na yung competition ng mga booth?
Are muted.
Thank you for the gift of life, wisdom, and guidance. We thank you for this day as we have the opportunity to learn about data privacy and intellectual property rights. May all that we learn make us better persons for ourselves and for others. We thank you and lift up to you our distinguished speakers, that they may be instruments of your love, mercy, and generosity. Bless each one of us in this virtual room and open our hearts and minds so that we may put into practice all that we will learn today that is in accordance with your will, and that we may use it for your greater glory. All this we ask in the powerful name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Mary Rose Valenzuela, for that heartwarming prayer. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, may we invite everyone to kindly put their respective right hands on their chest as we have our Philippine national anthem to be followed by our SPC hymn. And this will be led by our fellow trustee for the MBA DBA Executive Board, Representative Ms. Jo Christine Macalino. That's a virtual round of applause, of course, for our SPC hymn. Thank you so much to our representative, Ms. Jo Christine Macalinaw, for leading us. And now, we'd like to acknowledge our guests and, of course, the people who make things happen for our San Pablo College's Graduate School of Business Administration. May I acknowledge and introduce the following. Our San Pablo College's Executive Committee members, starting off with our college president, Dr. Susie Iyala. You may put thumbs up, emoticons of hearts, and applause, however you wish, ladies and gentlemen. Our Vice President for Academics, Dr. Jocelyn V. Baradas. And our Graduate School Director, Dr. Bernardo C. Lunar. We move on to our Graduate School of Business Administration faculty members. First off, our stunning Dean, of course, Dr. Venus C. Ibarra, CPA. Hello, Dean B. Thank you so much for being with us today. She's waving at us with her smile. And of course, our charming professor, Dr. Joseph Alfred M. Reyroso. Next in line, we have, we call her the timeless beauty, Dr. Adori A. Ramos. After Dr. Ramos, we have the handsome Dr. Randall Pasco. And who can miss the hardworking Dr. Matt Wilson B. Ramos? Followed by the gorgeous Dr. Elaine Joy C. Apat. And of course, we have the passionate Dr. Eduardo Lalas. Hardworking Dr. and Engineer Reynaldo Cadano. And of course, we cap off the list of our distinguished faculty members with the awesome Professor Ricardo G. Bartolome. A virtual round of applause for our executive committee members and of course, our Graduate School of Business Administration faculty members. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I just introduced her already, but may I again introduce her to you with this welcome address for today's much awaited Data Privacy Act and Intellectual Property Rights webinar. Friends, we all know her. She needs no further introduction. Her mere presence is already a blessing to all of us. Please welcome the Dean of our DBA MBA program, Dr. Venus C. Ibarra, CPA. Good afternoon, Dr. V.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. I hope to learn something from these two topics. So let me know, Randy, if I'm going now to introduce the first speaker. Again,
Okay. Okay, Dean, if I may, I'll just have a formal introduction of our activity, and I'll pass on the floor to you for the introduction, madam.
okay. Let me know
Okay.
when. All
Okay,
right.
Dean. Thank you so much. So, in today's digital landscape, where information is constantly being shared and accessed, data privacy and intellectual property rights have become paramount. It is crucial for individuals and organizations to understand the importance of protecting sensitive data and intellectual assets. So, ladies and gentlemen, join us as we delve into the complexities of data privacy and intellectual property rights and explore practical strategies for safeguarding them effectively. So, once again, I give you back our distinguished Dean of our MBA DBA program to introduce our first speaker for this afternoon to talk about Data Privacy Act. Dr. Ibarra, the floor is yours. Can you kindly unmute yourself, Dr. Ibarra? Dean V, can you kindly unmute yourself, please, Madam?
Yeah, I need the screen so I could. Perfect. Alvin, but you have there in the screen right now is an in-house legal counsel, Manila Electric Company, legal counsel College of Human Ecology Alumni Association, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna, a co-owner and legal head, SJP, Pharmacy and Convenience Store Franchising Corporation. And he had, okay, he finished his Juris Doctor in Far Eastern University. Okay, and I said, okay, but I cannot screen share. Alan wanted to say I have it on the screen, but I guess it's all right by this time. Okay, and of course, okay, Norley C. Alban is one of our fellows in Masters of Business Administration. Okay, go ahead, Norley. Attorney Norley. Oh, sorry, made you the doctor right now.
Thank you, Dean, for the warm introductions. It's an honor to be introduced by no other than our Dean V. Thank you, Dean. So let me share the screen if I'm allowed to. Just share my screen. All right. Is my screen visible already? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Randy. Okay. So I was tasked to discuss the Data Privacy Act of 2012, or the Republic Act number 10173. I must give, however, a caveat for this one, because the Data Privacy Act itself is actually a lengthy law, a law or a legal document. So it also has its IRRs and some advisories from the National Privacy Commission. So for today's discussion, with only limited time, I will discuss some salient provisions of the law, and that I think would be helpful to our MBA and DBA students and school and faculty members. So allow me to skip some of the provisions of the Act, which I think will not be applicable or not as good as an impact as the other provisions. So let me begin. Just a disclaimer on this one that we use for all our seminars or trainings, that again, we encourage everyone to go and download the law specific to the discussion on this particular event, is the RA 10170, or the Data Privacy Act, which you can have a full comprehension of the Act. Let me begin with a quote from Fred Wilson, that the companies that do the best job on managing a user's privacy will be the companies that will ultimately are the most successful. So basically what we're saying here is that a company who manages the privacy of its users will be the most successful businesses. And I do believe it's actually true. In fact, in our company, Meralco, we have a dedicated data privacy office that would cater for the security, managing, processing of the personal data information of the customers, employees, and our visitors and guests. So that's how important data privacy is for for our company. And it should be also a good start for other companies to treat the personal information of all data subjects as with confidentiality and with utmost confidentiality. So we have 3 objectives that I prepared for this one, but majority is just to increase general understanding and awareness of the Act, increase compliance, hopefully, in the San Pablo colleges, specifically on our MBA-DBA program, and also to increase awareness of the data rights of the data subject. Later, we will be defining what a data subject is, who are this data subject, and what are your rights. For today, there would be, sorry, there's a typo. There will be only 5 outline of presentations for this one. Again, I have omitted some of the provisions and some scopes and exemptions which I think is not applicable to the present discussion. And then I really encourage everyone from our guests and faculty members, or probably our my colleagues in the MBA and some from our DBA, to participate in the case scenarios. I will be asking questions, and I hope you could raise your hand later so you could answer the questions. To make it more appealable to everyone, for each case scenarios answered, I will be giving 100 peso GCash to each winner. So I think gusto yan ng mga ka-MBAs ko, kaya sinama natin yung GCash. So all right, let me begin with the Data Privacy Act in general. If you would look in your screen, normally a specific law is given or enacted by Congress and signed by the President. So you would note it is issued by the Congress of the Philippines. Relatively, the Data Privacy Act was enacted on July 25, 2011. But although having almost a decade or more than a decade here, the jurisprudence or the data or information on data privacy is still very low. So we have much to learn from other countries, and specifically in the Philippines, there's not much of a data that we can use. But if you look into the National Privacy Commission's website, there are a few advisories already and legal opinions regarding the matter, and it's accumulating activity for this act to encourage everyone to ask the National Privacy Commission their specific concerns, etc., clarifications, so as to enrich our knowledge and about the data privacy. So if you hear the term RA 10173, this is equivalent to the Data Privacy Act, which is an act protecting the individual personal information and communication system in the government and the private sector, creating for this purpose a National Privacy Commission and for other purposes. Basically, the structure of the Data Privacy Act consists of 5 aspects. Sections 1 to 6 are definitions and general provisions. Sections 7 to 10 is the National Privacy Commission's, its obligations and powers. Section 11 to 21 are the rights of the data subject, some obligations of personal information controllers and processors. Section 25 to 37 are penalties. I have a few questions on penalties with the emphasis on the extremeness of the penalties that the NPC can meet or can impose against breach of a data privacy provision. Of course, Section 22 to 24 are specific to the government. So again, I will be choosing some of the provisions here in the Data Privacy Act. So basically, Data Privacy Act in general, it aims to protect the privacy of individuals. So when we say individuals, these are natural-born citizens. So when we say data subject later on, there is a clarification from the National Privacy Commission that the data subject can only be a natural person, which is an individual. So the aim of the act is to protect the privacy of, to protect our privacy as individuals. And later you will know what are your rights. Okay, the Data Privacy Act also wants to ensure that the personal information are secured and protected. In this time of age, we simply give away information or personal information to different sectors, different institutions within our society, and it causes us to lose our personal information and the security for that. And ultimately, the data or the personal information gathered from us can be used against us from dubious or other unlawful or illegal acts. And this should be protected according to the Data Privacy Act. So the institution established by the law is the National Privacy Commission to ensure that the Philippines complies with the international standards on data protection. So this is actually a new commission enacted or established in the Philippines, and I think it's just a few years since its establishment. And there's a website for the National Privacy Commission which you could find some of their recent legal advisories, some promotional videos and advertisements regarding data privacy. So you can, it's good to check the National Privacy Commission, just Google it, and you can find their website, and then you can browse through the information. Because as I mentioned, we will be discussing just the salient provisions of the law, and it would be a good due diligence for you and a good addition to your knowledge and skill set to know the nitty-gritty of your rights as a data subject under the National Privacy Commission website. So let's go to the salient with the focus on salient, because again, I omitted some of the scopes and exemptions of the law. So the Data Privacy Act, sorry, I'll just adjust this one. I can see myself. All right. So the Data Privacy Act are rules which will apply to the processing of personal data, be it by processed by natural or juridical person. As I mentioned, the data subject is an individual or a juridical or a natural person, but the processor or the PIP or the PIC, as they say, although you don't need to know this at the moment, is that it could be a natural and juridical person. So there could be an individual or a partnership, the one who processes your data policy. Okay, so we have case scenario number 1. Again, I ask everyone to participate. I will be asking a question, then probably raise your hand. The first one, I'll try to answer it and explain it. It's very simple. Usually, it's a yes or no question only. Okay, case scenario number 1. TikTokers Corporation requested the listing of the names, telephone numbers, and respective addresses of San Pablo College's MBA and DBA students in order to offer its new credit card, the MBA and DBA Student Edition, with special interest rates. So basically, the scenario is talking about a certain corporation asking for the names, address, and the telephone numbers of MBA and DBA students. Now the question, will the provisions of the Data Privacy Act apply in this scenario? Hands, please. Okay, ayan. Sir Edison, go ahead. What do you think?
Yes, attorney.
Yes. Let's see. All right. Yes, the provisions of the Data Privacy Act will apply. Just a follow-up, Sir Edison. If your answer is yes, will San Pablo Colleges as an academic institution be liable under the Data Privacy Act? Why or why not? Do you think San Pablo Colleges would be liable as an institution?
Yes, attorney. I think so.
Why do you think so? Can you just give us a few rationale?
Yes, because the TikToker is, can I see the name again?
Yeah, TikTokers Corporation. Yeah.
Yeah, TikTokers Corporation is requesting for a private information from the students of San Pablo colleges. So I think the information needed or requested is private and it should not be given to anyone.
All right. Thank you, Sir Edison. When we ask the student council to please record our participants, and later I'll give the GCash for the prizes. Thank you, Sir Edison. Yes, correct. The answer of Sir Edison, San Pablo colleges would still be liable because actually masyado nang maganda yung explanation ni Sir Edison kasi he already knows that the private personal information are being asked by the TikTokers Corporation. But basically, I'm just asking kasi mag-a-apply siya because it's a corporation as well. Kasi it applies to the corporation. Pero nag-grasp na agad ni Sir Edison yung ating concept of personal information being processed by a personal information controller. Okay, so moving forward, the Data Privacy Act also applies when we use equipment, when a corporation or an individual uses equipment located in the Philippines and a resident foreign corporation. A resident foreign corporation is one who is a corporation established outside of the jurisdiction of the Philippines, but maintains an office, branch, or agency in the Philippines. Okay, so remember, use of the equipment and the resident foreign corporation. We have case scenario number 2. Instagrami Corporation is a corporation established in the United States of America or USA, but maintains a branch office in the Philippines. It conducted an exposition at the SM City San Pablo, providing samples and leaflets and asking its guests and visitors to write their names, address, and cell phone numbers in exchange for a prize. Okay, so alam nyo naman yan, ginagawa nyo yan. May form, your name, address, cell phone number para magkaroon kayo ng prize. Ibigyan kayong ballpen. So after the exposition, all of those data, Instagrami Corporation, pumunta sila sa US and then sold the collected data gathered to a private company in the Philippines. Now the question, is Instagrami Corporation covered by the provisions of the Data Privacy Act? Why or why not? So anyone? Kaka-discuss lang natin. Do you think Instagrami Corporation, a foreign corporation, would be liable under the provisions of the Data Privacy Act? Wag na kayong mahiya. We will help you along the way to answer the question. Yes or no lang siya. So pag mali yung sagot nyo, bawiin nyo na kagad. Alright. Okay, Sir Aljon, go ahead.
Yes, attorney, the Instagrami Corporation is covered by the provision of the DPA because they have a branch here in the Philippines.
Correct. Nalabas ko pero alam na alam talaga ni Sir Aljon. That's correct. The Instagrami Corporation is liable because it used equipment. Nagpumunta siya sa Philippines using equipments and nag-establish, meron pa siyang established na branch here in the Philippines. So both scenarios present doon sa ating and thus they are Instagrami Corporation is liable for under the Data Privacy Act. Ayan. Thank you, Sir Aljon. Pa-note na lang po nung kay Sir Aljon. Okay, next, the Data Privacy Act does not cover. So ito naman, exception na po ito to the rule. Hindi nasakop daw ng Data Privacy Act. Any information about an individual who is an officer or employee of a government institution. Ito po yung mga nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno. Okay? Hindi sila covered ng data privacy. So ano yung details na hindi sila covered? The fact of being a government officer. So for instance, our Department of Education Secretary Inday Sara Duterte, the fact that she is a government official, kahit pagsabi mo yan sa lahat walang problema because she is a government official and it's exempted from the Data Privacy Act. Okay, title, business address, and office number of a government officer employee. So pag nakakita ka ng government official, usually nakapublish din yan sa mga websites ng ating specific government institutions. So hindi rin siya sakop ng Data Privacy Act. Classification, range, and responsibilities, hindi rin kasama. Bakit? Kasi yung may mga SG natin dyan, di ba? Yung SG1 to SG25, I think, under the public government, nakapublish din naman yan kung magkano rin naman yung salary ranges nila, etc. So makikita mo dyan, even the responsibilities of the position na pupuntahan nyo. Kaya pag nag-a-apply ka, di ba, makikita mo rin naman talaga. So it doesn't cover the Data Privacy Act. And what else? Kapag napasama yung pangalan dun sa paper, pag ginawa in the course of employment, nakuha ka na, and you have released, for instance, a legal opinion na dun yung pangalan mo, then it's excused as well. Okay, case scenario again. Let's consider this calling card. Actually, this is my calling card. So let us review the contents. My name and designation. May business address. May contact details, although try to look kunwari meron na lang, but I reducted it. The question. Nakita nyo to, yung business card ko. Can you give the details to just anyone? Hands, please. What do you think? Sige.
Permission to answer shortly.
Ay, sige sir. I just can't see your name, sir, but go ahead po.
Yes, I can give it to other people or somebody because
Go ahead, sir.
it's already for public, I guess, for public consumption because it's a calling card.
Yes, sir. Would you reconsider, sir, your answer?
Yes, sir. I can give it to anyone.
Okay. Sige po. Any other opposing opinion? Si Sir Effie Henyo pala yun. Thank you, sir, for your answer. Any opposing opinion? Sige, I'll just discuss the answer of sir. I think yes, in a point of view, tama si Sir Effie Henyo kasi as he mentioned, I think kulang lang yung situation what if nakuha kasi publicly or it's published. I think he is correct in doing so, na ipamigay if ever. But generally what I'm asking for is it should not, you cannot give it to just to anyone else kasi ako po ay hindi government employee. I'm a private employee of the company. So coming from our discussion above, it only applies, the exception only applies to public company. But again, to the point of Sir Effie Henyo, if it is published, kumbaga naibigay mo na kasi doon sa certain person, pwede nyo pong ibigay, but provided that I gave my consent. So tama naman po si Sir na binigay ko kanwari kay Sir Effie Henyo yung calling card ko, and since pinablicize ko na sa kanya yon, pwede niya po gamitin, ibigay, but with my consent as well. Ayan. So thank you, sir. For the student council, kindly count that as a correct answer for Sir Effie Henyo. Thank you, sir. So moving forward, ano pa yung hindi covered by the Data Privacy Act? Any information processed for journalistic, artistic, and literary and research purposes. I think you would know my question hearing this sa isang academic institution. So case scenario. San Pablo Colleges, an academic institution in the Philippines, was invited to attend a conference at Malaysia in celebration of Teachers Month. San Pablo Colleges attended the said conference and provided leaflets of the school. So it also asked its visitors to write their names, address, and cell phone numbers. Again, meron din siyang inask na personal information. After the conference, San Pablo Colleges went to the Philippines and shared the data with its marketing department for research purposes. Now, are the information gathered by the San Pablo Colleges from the conference at Malaysia covered by the provisions of the Data Privacy Act in our country? What do you think? Similar to you can add situations kasi I do apologize. I cannot put the entire situation here. But again, if you would like to analyze it based on the concept that we have previously discussed prior the case scenario. But I I totally get the point of our guests that marami kasi siyang factors that could be affected by the question. So siguro simplihan lang natin on the concepts. So with the concepts na sinabi natin kanina na paano pag research purposes, is it applicable? What do you think? Yan, okay, mahiya. Baka magtawag si Dean. Anyone? Naku, parang nahirapan sila dito. Sir Randy, nahirapan yata. Baka you wanted to answer
no,
this one, Sir Randy. What do you think?
No, I hope there's no legal impediment if I answer because I
Of
was just
course
tapped
not,
as a
sir.
host.
For ano lang ito.
No, pleasure meeting
general
you, Attorney
discussions
Nico.
lang.
My father is also a panyero of yours. He's a retired lawyer, a government official as well. And I can fully relate to how you're discussing this. Anyways, so case scenario number 4. Okay, will it apply? I think, sir, our less the two of us, no? Our other 56 participants is still researching the answer, maybe consulting Dr. Google.
Sige. Siguro I will answer this one muna. Baka
please.
nahirapan sila dito. But you have already said the answer, sir.
Yeah. No,
it's not
because,
applicable. Yes.
Yeah,
Kasi
because
research
diba,
eh.
sir? Yes, because bukas yan eh. You've researched it already. It's technically published. An example of that was the recent trip we had with Dean B and the other officers where we were asked to do research and our journals were published. No, our names were there. We had consent, and it's public document. In layman's term, Attorney Nico, tama po ba?
Yes, that's correct, sir. So
Opo.
basically, if there is for research purposes, again, we're discussing this in the simplest of terms. Again, this is a little bit complicated in terms of when you apply for instance, a case against the NPC for a certain scenario because there are requirements. But basically, on the concept, yes, as long as for research, ang intention mo is for research, you have that process it, you're not liable to data privacy.
May I have a follow-through before you go to number 3
Go
with
ahead,
that
sir.
topic? For example, sorry to jump, no? I might preempt your next presentation or the questions of our guests later. Paano po, tagalogin ko po, Attorney Nico, our fellow Espician, kung screenshot yung research, it still applies. Iba naman yung in-screenshot yung inyong marites na usapan. Iba yon. Iba yung research na, just to humor the webinar, sir. Iba yung research that I don't have a photocopying machine. I have to pass it on to a classmate or to Attorney Nico. And I did a screenshot of the research. It still applies because it's still public document. Tama po?
Well, from
Okay.
the point of view po of the data privacy, yes. Kasi
Yes. Oo.
you're doing it for research as long as it's used for research purposes. But again, sir, we are just talking about data privacy, but there are
Yes.
other laws po governing if you take someone's research for someone's credit. Again,
Exactly.
so that would not be covered by the data privacy, but there are other laws that could be governing such actions. So
Okay.
tama kayo dun, sir, sa data privacy. Okay, hindi. Pero let's just check. Baka naman under kinuha mo for your own hindi mo ginamit yung author, hindi ka na properly what do you call
There's
it? Reference?
may malicious intent. Ika nga po,
Yes, sir.
tama
There
po.
is a malicious intent also from your part. It's a case of, meron po siyang test actually. Hindi ko lang sinama dito sa but the National Privacy Commission, the Data Privacy Act has a specific test to try to think if it is done for research purposes or not. May legitimate purpose test yan. So
Unless, sir,
makikita
attorney,
silang
if there
guideline.
is a complainant. Pero kung walang complainant, pinabayaan mo lang, then of course, we just let it go, unless it affects you already. Tama po ba?
Well, since I'm a lawyer, sir, I may beg to differ because
Okay,
again,
I want to ask.
even if it's not seen by anyone, as long as it's prohibited by the law, it's still illegal. Even if it's
thank
not
you.
seen by anyone, if it's
Okay.
stated by the law that's illegal, it's still illegal. At least from
Thank you for that.
a legal perspective.
Thank you for the
Okay.
manifestation, attorney. Go on, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. So moving
You're welcome.
forward, I chose some key terminologies for the data privacy. Just 3. There's so many. Promise. There's the PIC, PIP. There's so many terminologies. But what I want you to understand, at least for today, is the concept of the data subject. So the data subject is an individual whose personal information is processed. Basically, the data subject is us, every one of us. So tayo yung na subject kasi tayo may personal information. In fact, under the NPC advisory, ang pwede lang maging data subjects are natural individuals, hindi kasamang corporations. It's a good fact. Yan. So let's try to check ano ba yung mga school data subjects natin, 'di ba? Sino-sino dun sa school in our academic institution sa ano kaya yung mga pwedeng maging data subject? Here are some. So the students are part of the data subject. Your professors, our professors are data subjects. Visitors are also data subjects. The employees, being our from our janitorial services up to the admin, all of them are data subjects as long as there are personal informations. Even the vendors inside the school are data subjects. So everyone, every individual can be a data subject provided that there is personal information being processed or at least will be asked to be processed. Basta may personal information, data subject yan. At least for the school, here are the top 5. So consent, I want you to focus here on consent. Bakit? Kasi if you're a data subject, you can either give your consent or not. Kasi it's your personal information. When you're asked, for instance, by a certain company, okay, kailangan ko attorney, kailangan ko ng ganito. Your name, address, signature, bibili lang ako ng kape. 'Di ba? You need you to give your consent. Pag nag-give ka ng consent, kahit bumibili ka lang ng kape, that's already that's already allowed under the data privacy. And again, if you look at the lower part, the best evidence for this one is it should be written. Dapat personally written siya, pwedeng electronic, pwedeng recorded, or through an SPA. So makikita mo siya, basta nagbigay ka ng consent, ay pwede nilang i-process. But later, you would know that sa data rights of the data subject, pwede ka rin palang mag-object kahit nagbigay ka na. Later, we'll explain that. But in the meantime, I want you to also focus on the third term, data processing. Kasi, bakit? Magkakasunod dyan. So, na-define na natin sino si data subject. Di ba tayo? Pwede tayo magbigay ng consent or not. Kasi pag nagbigay ka ng consent, it can be processed. So kung nagbigay ka ng consent, it was processed for the purposes na sinabi sa'yo, then it's fine. It's a legal act under the data privacy. But if it's not, it's still covered kasi unauthorized processing yan. And you can still file a case under the NPC for that. So yun, data subject, your consent, and data processing. So at least malaman nyo yung tatlong yan. Masaya na ako kasi you've learned 1 or 2 for this discussion. Okay, so we go swiftly with the data subject, rights of the data subject. We have basically 8 data subjects. Let's just breeze through it. As a data subject, you have the right to be informed. Dapat alam mo na yung personal data mo ay kokolektahin, pwedeng kolektahin, or maaaring makolekta. Ito po yung makikita nyo sa mga establishments. I'm not particular if SPC is doing this already. I think so naman, that there are data policy advisory saying that your information may be processed, etc., secured here. So mayroon silang data privacy information na nakalagay. So dapat informed tayo na pwedeng makuha yung mga personal data natin. So next, right to access it. So pwede ka magtanong sa mga institutions, meron ka bang kinuhang data from me? If so, I should have reasonable access to them. Why? Because it's my personal information. So if you have my personal information, did I give my consent? Yes or no? Or if I did so, let me check. Let me check the access, because maybe I said yes without knowing what is the purpose of your gathering of this personal information of mine. Because at the end, our next right is that you can actually object. Even if you've given your consent, you can actually object again to the processing of the data, their personal information. Kasi baka naisip mo, ay hindi pala siya parang illegitimate yung yung purpose. So you can really actually object. So it's another right. Hi, go ahead, sir.
Sorry to make this look like a class, Attorney Miko, no? But you mentioned something interesting. please advise me if I'll go off tangent. Yung sinabi niyo pong you gave consent, pag pumirma po ako, halimbawa, sa restaurant, kinuha yung pangalan, tapos for whatever purpose, no, so I had consent. And then the most recent topic you said, tapos nagbago isip mo or may nakita kang hindi maayos, you want to retract or yield to giving that consent. Pero pumirma ka. How do we manage that, sir? Am I on the right track?
Yes, sir, you're on the right track. Even if you've given your consent to a certain processor na
Oh.
kailangan para ma-process yung whatever request that you have. You made a sign, gave some personal details. But sabi mo nga, oh, parang merong ginagawang kalokohan to. Or
Mhm.
something. So you
Oo.
can actually ask them na, oops, parang I'm seeing something something not regular here. So I think I will retract my consent given to you. So pwede
What
niyo po
if-
yung
but-
bawiin.
Paano kung ayaw nila? Hindi, sir, binigay mo na eh. Nabentahan ka, nagbago isip mo. And then you discovered, or right there and then, they do not consent now to giving you back your consent. Paano po yun?
Opo. If that's the case, sir, well, I don't recommend na makipag-away po just to get it. Just
Okay.
record the fact that they have refused to give
Okay.
you the right to object because it's
Okay.
under the the Data Privacy Act, and it's actually enshrined in the law that you have the right to object for your consent because it's
Okay.
your personal information. So don't bother na makipag-away. Just record the fact that that they refuse to give you your right, and then file a case, a complaint against them under the NPC, and the NPC will assist you on that, on your requests.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Miko. I guess the best scenario is to give you a call and make sure you protect us. Thank you, Attorney Miko.
Why not, sir? Of course, hindi ko na lang po sinasama yung some of the exceptions kasi baka malito lang kasi. But basically, if you can't object actually if there's a subpoena. Again, if there's a court case, of course, you can do that because there's a valid law allowing them to get the information from you. Ayan, or a certain legal obligation, like a contract, for instance. Okay, so ano pa? Right to erasure or blocking. Ayan. You have the right, ito kasama to dun sa question niyo, sir. You have the right to suspend, withdraw, or order the blocking or even removal of destruction of your personal data. Again, because it's your personal information. If you don't want your personal information to be processed, they don't have anything against you. It's yours. It's yours. Hindi talaga pwede. Except, again, yung sinabi ko, may mga legal rights o subpoena, etc. But the right is absolutely yours. The right to damages. Okay. Yan, ito na yung siguro maganda yung question ni sir Nagdikit-dikit, nagsunod-sunod. What if nag-file ka ng complaint in the NPC, you won, etc. You have the right to get compensation because again, you have suffered damages for that dun sa ginawa nilang refusal to object on that. And NPC is very generous on penalties. Later, you would notice just one act of breach, maabot ng mga 2 million, 3 million. So, well, may mga PIC kasi yun, sir, at PIP. Ibang situation sa atin, sir. Pero again, just to make an impact na malakas magbigay ng penalty ang NPC. So talagang nakakatakot. Even our company is afraid of this these situations. Kaya talagang we treat every personal information with utmost confidentiality. Okay, yan. Ito din yan, sir. Right to file a complaint with the NPC. Yan, natuhog natin yung yung 4 of the rights of the subject with that question ni Sir Randy. So you may file that. Hindi naman kayo mahihirapan. You can actually file a complaint just by going to the website. They have a form there. It's not really a hassle to do. You can really file a complaint just online. Okay. And then right to rectify. Ayan. So if there are any inaccuracies on the personal informations given, mali. So you have the right to rectify it kasi it's your personal information. I wouldn't want my name, for instance, na misspell na Ablan. That's my surname, so it should be Alban, di ba? I have the right to rectify it and correct anyone that would be using Ablan as my surname. Though you're pertaining to me, but that's not my surname, diba? So that's the right to rectify. Ayan. So may data portability. You don't need to actually know this, but basically the data subject personal information can be passed on from institution to institution to allow free flow of information as long as the security is there and you have consented to that. Transmissibility, siguro ang pinaka-importante lang on transmissibility is this one. If the data subject is incapacitated, yung incapacitated person or individual can execute an SPA in his behalf or her behalf at may specific SPA agent ka na natatayo for you to do whatever data rights na meron ka. In case you're dead, well, in case you're dead, sorry. Let me rephrase that. In case an individual has died, but still, ang sabi nga natin, kahit namatay ka naman, kunwari, yung lahat ng information na ibinigay mo in public are still there. So, kailangan mo pa rin protektahan kahit namatay na yung data subject. So, ang sabi ng batas, ibigay natin yan sa mga legal heirs. So, for instance, namatay yung asawa mo. So, yung asawa mo at mga anak could protect your personal information in your behalf kahit namatay ka na. Kasi right pa rin yun nung namatay kasi it's his or her personal information. And then just to add, the parents and guardians are automatically assumes responsibility for minors. So pag minor siya automatically, pwede nang yung guardians saka parents would assume responsibility. Okay. So limitation, again, we discussed this if it's scientific and statistical research, and then if it's done under strict confidentiality. Okay, and it does not apply if there's an obligation under investigations and administrative lax liabilities. Yan, hindi na natin yan Okay, some penalties. Ito. So unauthorized processing of the data. If you would look at this information, yung personal information mo ay na process unauthorized, look at the imprisonment. You can be imprisoned from 1 year to 3 years. And it's not an or, it's an and. You can be fined from 500,000 to 2 million pesos. Look at the generosity of the law here. So if you have multiple breaches, it could be billions and billions kapag ganun kadami yung breach. And it could happen. It happened in the United States and some other countries na nagkaroon ng data breach. So ito yung sinasabi ko na nakakatakot yung penalties ng NPC. Again, I have not seen yet na na-imposean ng ganong kalaki. But then, it's under the law and it's possible that you can be meted or imposed with a fine and even imprisonment. But I haven't seen someone imprisoned for data privacy. Just as yet. I'm not just particular on that. So let's go with the scenario again. Just a few more scenarios. Okay. So let's consider here Manny. Si Manny. Ayan, messengerial si Manny is a messengerial staff servicing Pacquiao Business Center. So the Pacquiao Business Center gives documents to him normally because he delivers the documents from their place until the different places na ipinigay sa kanya. So kumbaga siya yung nagde-deliver so kailangan niya makita yung yung mga documents. Since Manny is a diligent employee, chine-check niya yung documents. Check ko muna kung kanino yung pangalan, kanino yung address para hindi siya magkamali. And maganda yung task niya kasi maganda yung performance niya. So once done, ayan, matatapos naman niya yung daily task niya without doing anything on that. So the question, ayan, hindi ko lang makita. Ba't ganun? Considering, nasagot na. Considering that is there a violation of the provision of the Data Privacy Act in this scenario? Ayan. May violation ba? Nakita nyo na yung sagot. Anyone? Huwag kayong mahiya. Sayang naman ang GCash. Nasaan na yung mga kaklasiko? Anyone?
Maybe you can volunteer one of your classmates, Attorney Miko, and make them shine.
Okay lang ba yun? Baka pagalitan ako ng mga to.
We have to have consent, no?
We have consent from Dina, no? From Dina Ibarra. Sige, let's try. Ay, kaso nagiging law school no? Law school discussion.
That's okay. It's your floor, sir.
Yeah, let's try. Sige, Sir Leo, are you there? You want to try this one?
Let's squeeze the creative juices of our MBA classmates.
Oh, okay, mahiya.
Hello po.
Yan. Sir Leo, what do you think? Liable ba si Manny if ever na tinignan niya yung names tsaka yung addresses pero dineliver lang naman niya? Is he liable, do you think?
Yes po, attorney po. Money is liable po sa Data Privacy Act. Data privacy po.
Okay, okay. Sige, thank you, Sir Leo.
Hello po.
Thank you, sir.
Yes po.
Sir, you are correct given some other datas. To be honest, yung ating kasing example has some variables. I really wanted to squeeze, sabi nga ni sir, to just squeeze out some creative insights from you guys na what if may mga certain scenarios. But in a general sense, kasi yung binigay nating example, if you would look, chinek lang naman niya para makita kung saan niya i-deliver. So basically, part siya of the job. Kailangan niya yung makita yung names and address to process that para maibigay niya at ma-deliver. So it's part of his job. So on that scenario alone, yes, hindi siya liable dapat. But it's very prone to data privacy security breach kasi ang tanong dyan, meron bang protocol yung company nila on this one? Kasi binigay ba nila yung documents na yun, mga confidential documents na may personal information kay Manny na walang protocols to follow? Hindi ba lang ba naka-envelope? Wala bang ganyan? So, depende on the variable, Sir Leo is actually correct there. That there could be a highly, very likely to have a data privacy security breach. Yan. So, thank you, Sir Leo. Again, siguro i-breeze through na lang natin to para mukhang ayaw nyo na ng GCash. So, again, unauthorized purposes. Ayan. So pag pinrocess daw ng isang tao, yung information not authorized by the data subject, you will be meted with, again, the hefty imprisonment of 1 year to 5 years and 500,000 to 1 million. So with this case scenario, let's just breeze through the scenario. For instance, Harlan is an employee of Black and Pink Corporation. So during the lunch break, nakakita siya ng iPhone sa store. So gusto niyang bilhin, but knowing that she has a loan, she used the name of other person, si Janina, at nagpretend siya na siya si Janina. Tapos, since she has access to the company database, kinuha niya yung name, address, some personal information in securing the loan. And voila, nakakuha siya ng loan. So, nakakuha din siya ng ng mga school forms, etc. as supporting documents kasi nasa database na handle niya. Now the question, is there a violation under the Data Privacy Act here? Ayan. Meron ba gusto mag-try? If not, I will discuss na lang. Ayan, mukhang na sila. Pagod na ang mga tao. No one wants to try? Okay. Sige, I'll just discuss this one. So, may violation ba? Yes. Why? Kasi si Harlan ay nagkaroon ng unauthorized processing of personal information. Bakit? Kasi meron silang database under the company, illegally accessed, at hindi siya inauthorized ng data subject para i-process yung personal information niya for a loan. So basically, ginamit niya yung personal information for an unauthorized processing. So what if, hindi ko yata ito napalitan. What if si Miss Harlan ay tinanong naman niya yung kanyang office mate na, oy, baka naman pwedeng i-loan mo for me, babayada naman kita. Gusto ko lang bilhin yung iPhone. Will Harlan be liable under the Data Privacy Act? So for this instance, hindi na. Kasi may consent na ni Miss Janina. Kasi nagbigay na siya ng consent So hindi na unauthorized yung processing ng information. Meron na silang contract between themselves na, okay, may utang ka sa akin at ako yung babayaran mo. So yung processing ng information, hindi na unauthorized. Okay, case scenario 2 on point. What if Eugene is a nursing student sa Kanosha School? Nag-apply siya sa San Pablo Colleges to transfer to business ad. So binigay niya yung details, etc., name, address, birthday, and then some IDs and documents. Then si Hannah, one of the staff sa San Pablo Colleges, kilala si Eugene. Tapos gandang-ganda siya kay Eugene, so na-insecure siya. So pinrocess niya yung transfer, pero tinransfer niya sa education, hindi sa business ad. So now the question, Is Hannah liable under the Data Privacy Act? Would anyone want to try this obvious one? Okay, wala. All right. So will Hannah be liable? Yes, it's obvious na liable siya. Kasi ang purpose of the consent ni Hannah, bigyan natin pangalan, ni Eugene is to transfer doon sa business administration, not sa education. Kaso unauthorized yung purpose na ginamit niya. So liable po si Hannah. What if yung process naman doon sa business administration ay ginawa naman niya? Yeah, sa business ad siya tinransfer pero sinadya niya na maliin yung details ni Miss Eugene. What happens? Ayan. Unauthorized pa din kasi again, the purpose na nag-consent si Eugene is to process her personal information to transfer to business ad with the details na tama. Since mali pa rin, it's still unauthorized. Okay? So pwede din tayo magkaroon na due to negligence. Ayan. So I want to emphasize this. Hindi nyo sinasadya pero naging negligent kayo. You can still be liable under the Data Privacy Act. Let's give this quickly again the scenario. Gab, claiming to be the brother of Edison. Ayan. Called some public colleges hotline and asked for the personal address and telephone number of Edison. So tumawag siya sa call center. Ayan, some public colleges, kapatid ko si Edison, I'm here, na emergency yung family, can you give me the name, address, and telephone number of Edison under dyan sa database nyo? Okay, question. Ayan, ano ba to? Si Gab dapat to. Is Gab liable under the Data Privacy Act? Very obvious yan, di ba? Yes! Si Gab, wrong lang yun Gab is liable under the Data Privacy Act. Sorry. Let me just check. It's not Edison or Gab. It's the call center agent. Sorry, this is my typo error. The call center agent will be liable because he or she provided access doon sa personal information due to negligence. Hindi na siya nag-conduct ng due diligence kung totoo bang kamag-anak ni Gab si Edison. Binigay na lang niya freely. So magiging liable siya for providing access due to negligence. Ayan. So wag na yan yung penalty. Again, just the emphasis on the generosity of the penalty. Kaya ang sakit. Kaya kailangan nito laging i-take into consideration ng mga corporations. Ito, few more. Ito. What if si Heidi daw ay may electric bill, mapuputulan na siya dapat, tapos pero nabayaran naman niya bago pa nakuha yung disconnection notice. And then si Lourdes, yung messenger, pinapasign lang siya, uy, sign mo naman to na na-receive mo yung disconnection notice. Kahit na nagbayad ka na, disregard mo na lang. Basta kunwari, basta na-receive mo siya. So nakita naman nitong si Heidi, bakit nakalagay yung pangalan ko, may name, address, at nakalagay na hindi ako nagbayad. Nakakahiya. Baka makita ng mga neighbors. Ayan. So now, is Lourdes liable? Yung messenger na nagpapasign sa kanya liable under the Data Privacy Act? Do you think? Yes, liable. Kasi, again, if there are protocols under the company para ma-redact yung mga personal information, dapat fina-follow yun ng messenger na si Lourdes. Kaso, since nakabuladlad yung personal information ng mga tao, makikita yun ng iba and it could really cause humiliation na eto pa lang si, what's the name? Si Heidi. Hindi nagbabayad ng kuryente. So nakakahiya nga and it could cause damage to her. Kaya pwede siyang maging liable itong si Lourdes due to the negligence. Ayan. So, also, knowingly disposing.
Hold it. Earlier.
Yes.
There is another speaker. Could you please make your question now? I'm sorry,
yes.
it's a very interesting topic, but there's another speaker.
Okay, Dean, I'll go to my last slide. Okay, so I'll just let this one, I'll just give this to the student council so you can access and check the scenarios differently. So basically, just wanted to impart this one actually. That the personal information to be given to a specific person should be commensurate to the need for that specific personal information. So for instance, again, my specific example, kung bibili ka lang ng kape, you don't need to give your personal details na name, address, signature. Dapat yung pagbibigay mo ng personal information would depend on the need of that personal information to be processed. So supposedly, I will just make you send a message here. But the point of this activity actually is just to let you know na don't give your name. If you give your name, age, and department to me, now, baka wala kayong natutunan. Kasi again, these are your personal information. Your name, age, and department are your personal information for you. So you just don't give your name and personal information just to get 100 GCash. So again, think before you click, think before you give your personal information. You are the one who owns your personal information, and before any other person or institution protects them, you should protect your personal information yourself. So with that, thank you very much. I apologize, Dean V, and for Attorney Ibarra for exceeding my time. Sorry, I did not see my clock. Apologies for that. But again, thank you, and have a good weekend, everyone.
Attorney Norly Miko C. Alban. I hope I didn't do a tongue twister there. Attorney Miko, thank you so much. Actually, your humility is highly appreciated. You did not exactly go over time, but we appreciate Dean V for tapping us there. 24 hours is not good enough, no? Given the topic that you just discussed. Anyway, Attorney Miko, if and when we need your professional services or basically a shoulder of data privacy to lean on, we do hope we can contact you through SPC. Given that, Attorney Miko, I'll park my tongue while I am ahead and give the floor to one of our distinguished faculty members, Dr. Adori A. Ramos, to award you your well-deserved certificate of recognition, our humble token. You deserve more, but more than GCash, sir, but at least something to remember us by. Dr. Adori Ramos, the floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you, Randy. San Pablo College's Graduate School of Business Administration, San Pablo City, Laguna, given the certificate of recognition to Attorney Norly C. Alban for sharing his valuable insights and expertise as a guest speaker in the seminar entitled Data Privacy Act and Intellectual Property Rights via Zoom platform, given this on the 20th day of May 2023. Signed, Advisor of DSBA Student Council, Dr. Joseph Alfred Emery Rosso, CPA, President of DSBA Student Council, Mr. Louis Morsi Asedilio, and of course, our Dean of DBA MBA program, Dr. Dinos C. Ibarra, CPA.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Adori A. Ramos. And once again, our heartfelt and endless thanks, Attorney Norly Miko C. Alban, our classmates and our batchmate. Please stay. I'm sure you'll find the next topic highly interesting. And maybe if our next speaker will disclose more than the data that he supposedly you can guide us, Attorney Miko. And Attorney Miko, I'm sure you'll stay with us. A lot of people are messaging me privately. And with your consent, of course, we have a Zoom chat there. If you'd like to disclose a contact detail, please, your call, sir. Otherwise, we can course it through SPC. Once again, thank you. A big virtual round of applause to our first speaker. Of course, Attorney Miko just heated up our afternoon, and thank you, Dean B, for helping us segue to the next speaker. This will complete the other half of our webinar for today. And with that, I would like to call once again on the virtual floor our colleague in the faculty of the MBA DBA School of Business Administration, Dr. Adori A. Ramos. Can you please do the honors of introducing our next speaker for today?
Okay, once again, thank you, Randy. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm so privileged to have this chance to introduce our honored speaker. Our speaker graduated from Ateneo de Manila University in 1991 with a degree in psychology. He went on to complete his Juris Doctor from the Ateneo Law School in 1995 and passed the bar in 1996. He worked in various capacities with the Ateneo Human Rights Center and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. He has taught law subjects at the Ateneo Law School 1996, the John Gokongwei School of Management from 1999 to the present, and the FEU Institute of Law from 2013 to the present. He is currently the Assistant Vice President for Litigations and Special Projects of the Legal Affairs Department of GMA Network. He is also the General Counsel for GMA Music. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker this evening, Attorney Jose Binursi Ibarra.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ramos. Dr. Donato, thank you. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Let me just address the elephant in the room. Of course, my family name would always evoke what would be my relationship to Dr. Venus Ibarra. Well, just to destroy the suspense, Dr. Ibarra is my colleague in Ateneo. We used to be faculty mates in the John Gokongwei School of Management, but she has moved on. That is my relationship to Dr. Ibarra. Ayan.
Disclaimer. Okay.
Okay. To the admin of this chat, may I be allowed to share my screen? Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. I teach a subject in the John Gokongwei School of Management called Law 114.03. This is an undergrad subject for intellectual property, and I'm going to recycle the introductory slide if with your kind indulgence. And let me just go through it quickly. I'm a big believer in the 45-15 rule, which means that all presentations should be wrapped up in less than 45 minutes, and 15 minutes should be devoted to questions and answers. And anything longer than that, I think, is counterproductive for all of us, since this is a long afternoon. We had a very interesting first talk, and I really do not want to impose upon you and bore you for more than 45 minutes. So please, please tolerate me for the next 45 minutes. Now, I work for GMA Network. I am Assistant Vice President for Legal Affairs, Head of Litigation Services. I'm also General Counsel of several companies' subsidiaries, which includes GMA Films and GMA Music. And perhaps the best way to introduce this topic is to illustrate intellectual property as tangible property. When I introduce intellectual property, I ask my students to look at their cell phone and look at it, because a cell phone is a tangible property. We all know that. And tangible properties, of course, what would be the characteristic of tangible property? It's something that you can it is actually something that you can use your senses. Diba? The cell phone, for example, can be touched, could be seen, it could be heard, and well, some people, you can even taste it, diba? So a tangible property is a property that can be seen by the senses, can be your senses can see its presence, okay? Medyo loose lang yun, okay? But we also have intangible properties and intangible rights, okay? So while this cell phone here perhaps has a resale value because it's a second-hand cell phone of probably less than 6,000 pesos. There is such a thing as intangible properties. These are properties that do not exist beyond our senses. And while it is hard to imagine something that could not be sensed or touched having value, think of it this way. For example, for GMA network where I work, I always say that the means of production of producing wealth in GMA is actually here, the mind. Okay, so GMA creates TV programs, GMA Films creates motion pictures, GMA Music composes music to be sold as streaming. So wala nang tangible form ngayon na music, all of you could hear it. And that is something valuable. That creation of the mind of several hundred creative people will create a wealth of probably around 16 billion pesos a year. Okay, so imagine, for example, a composer. If you are, for example, one of the, for example, if you're Ryan Cayabyab, siguro everyone here in this chat room would know who Ryan Cayabyab is. Okay, if you ask Mr. Ryan Cayabyab, a national artist, to compose a musical work for your commercial, that work would probably cost you around 3 million pesos. If you ask, for example, someone like who would be a familiar songwriter to many of the audience here, Sir Paul McCartney, 1/4 of the Beatles and 1/2 of the songwriting team of the Beatles. Because for the Beatles fan here, alam natin that the composers in the Beatles is John Lennon and Paul McCartney. So kalahati na lang yun. John Lennon was killed in 1981, but Sir Paul McCartney still writes songs. It's estimated that the enterprise value of the catalog of McCartney and Lennon is probably close to around $4 billion US. Not bad for something in your head. Okay, so for us to understand intellectual property, we need to understand how we acquire wealth, how we acquire property. And there are several modes. Diba? Let's just go through them quickly. Okay, so going through the list, just like a shopping list, we know, for example, that you imagine all of the property that you own. And these are the exclusive mode for creating property. Imagine any property that you own, whether it's a cell phone, a pencil, a pen. So here's the list. Okay, so there's occupation, and of course we will discuss intellectual creation later. You can also acquire property through law, through donation, succession, contracts, tradition. Okay, so that's Article 712 of the Civil Code of the Philippines. So, of course, on top of our list is occupation. Okay, so the best way to illustrate occupation, to create property, to have property is, for example, you are a hunter or a fisherman, and you for example, in the wild, in the ocean, you catch a large fish of commercial value, say a large tuna. So for those, for example, who are in the food business, we know that a tuna would be around more or less more than 100 kilos and probably cost several thousand pesos. So not bad for one fish. Okay, so when you catch a large fish, that is occupation. Okay, and when you catch a fish, it becomes your property. Okay, now property can also be acquired by law. For example, we have legislations that would allow you to acquire law, like for example, land reform. Also, another form of acquiring property is donation. Okay, so donation, of course, is when a person liberally disposes gratuitously something. So, for example, think of someone giving you a gift of 10,000 pesos. That is a donation because it proceeds from an act of gratuity. Okay, so also succession, mana. Okay, if you acquire, for example, property from your parents who are deceased, that is one mode of acquiring property. Okay, other modes of acquiring property with contracts, traditions, creation, transformation, and of course, that is beyond the scope of today's discussion. And of course, in the list that we saw a while ago, we have intellectual property as a mode of acquiring property. So what is intellectual property? Okay, so here's the definition of intellectual property according to the WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. Okay, so intellectual property refers to creations of the mind. Could be inventions, could be literary and artistic works, could be designs, symbols, names and images used in commerce. So broadly, intellectual property could be copyrights, patents, trademarks, and service names. All of these are valuable. Okay, so while of course you cannot touch, for example, or taste a or hear a service mark, it has a value. Okay, so the first kind of intellectual property, of course, is copyright. We'll just discuss them, of course, and the most common, of course, is copyright. When we talk of copyrights, we talk of rights of creators over literary and artistic works. So, for example, when you talk of copyrights, you talk of works covered in a range from books. You're talking of music. You're talking of paintings, sculptures, films, even computer programs, databases. We're talking of maps, technical drawings. All of these have a value. If I attempt to write a song and try to sell it to GMA Music, I will probably be paid, given my lowly stature in the songwriting world. I would probably net about 5,000 pesos if I'm lucky. But if you have a well-seasoned composer like, for example, Charo Unite or Gary Granada, or even the likes of, sino pa ba ang makilala ninyo? Kichi Nadal. Okay? Their works would probably net a few 100,000 pesos, probably 1 million for national artists like Ryan Cayabyab. Okay? Computer programs, databases. The most valuable object in commerce today are actually computer programs and apps. And if you are, for example, a developer of a computer program or an app, for example, the most popular app today, the entire world, is an app called Facebook. And Facebook, as a computer program and a computer app, probably has an enterprise value of probably close to around 250 billion US dollars. Okay, again, creation of the mind, but highly valuable. Okay, let's move on. Okay, then we also, when we talk of intellectual property, we can also talk of a patent. Okay, what is a patent? A patent is an exclusive right for invention. Okay, the difference between a patent and a copyright is that copyright covers works of the mind. Here in patent, we're talking here of inventions that are tangible, something you can touch, something you can smell, something you can see. And unlike, for example, your copyright, which is in the realm of ideas. Okay, so when we talk of patent, we talk of inventions. Okay, a product or a process or a new way of doing something. Or offer a new technical solution to a problem. Okay. What would be the best example of a patent in the last probably the last 40 years? I think that the best example of a patent would be, well, I think we're old enough to remember the compact disc. Although if you're young right now, you would probably wonder what is a compact disc. Compact disc, of course, is a piece of plastic that have been inscribed for the sole purpose of being read by a laser beam. So yung mga dati naalala niyo yung CD, compact disc. Why did I mention compact disc? Who is the inventor of the compact disc? The inventor of the compact disc is a company called Philips. Philips, alam natin yan. It's a household brand. And when the compact disc was invented, of course, one consequence of a patent is that you have exclusive right to exploit it for the next 25 years. So when Philips invented the compact disc, all of its rivals, including Sony, was licensing it from them. So if you are old enough like me, if you had a compact disc player 30 years ago, even if it is a Sony, the gadget is actually licensed from Philips. Okay, but of course, lapse na yung patent ni Philips, so that everyone and anyone right now can make compact disc. And because anyone and everyone can now manufacture compact disc, it is probably close to death. Patay na ang compact disc. Nobody uses it anymore. Okay, so tapos na yung patent, exclusive right of Philips to exploit it. And now everyone can use it. And in the last, about 20 years ago, everyone was using CDs. Everyone was cloning CDs, and which probably led to its eventual decline. So, like in the Philippines today, there's actually no compact disc cutting facility now. Wala na nagkakat ng CD ngayon. Right? So, that's a patent. Okay? Then we talk of trademarks and service marks. Okay, so what is a trademark? Of course, it is a sign that is capable of distinguishing goods or services of one enterprise from the other. Okay, so trademarks is actually a sign that distinguishes your business from another. Okay, and that sign alone is a very valuable asset in itself, apart from the enterprise. Think, for example, of multi-billion dollar brands like, for example, Nike. Okay, so there's a big difference between Nike and Grosby. If you're old enough to remember Grosby. Okay, Grosby is actually a trademark in the Philippines. It's used to be owned by a company called Rubber World. If you're old enough like me, you remember you wearing Grosby shoes. And if you probably remember PBA players endorsing Grosby. Okay? While Grosby is a very valuable brand locally, we have brands like Nike, for example, that is actually a global brand. And Nike is probably in the billions. Okay? In fast forward to 2023, what sports brand can we talk of, for example? For example, another local brand that you're probably aware of is probably Botak. For those who are into running and into jerseys. Okay? Botak probably as a brand is probably worth a few million pesos. Far Cry, for example, from the enterprise value of a global brand like, say, for example, Adidas or Puma. Okay, so trademarks is also very valuable, and the value of trademark in itself, trademarks can be sold apart from the business. Okay, so you will have to be careful in protecting, for example, your trademark or your service mark. So what is the difference between a trademark and a service mark? A trademark denotes goods, while a service mark denotes service. Okay. There are other intellectual properties that we can speak of, and let me just quickly survey them. Okay, of course, there's industrial designs. We have geographical indicators. Geographical indicators, for example, some products have indicators of where they come from. Um, I'm not familiar of what particular products San Pablo is known for. But for example, if you have, for example, coffee like products like Batangas coffee, the geographical indicator that it came from Batangas is actually geographical indicator that you cannot attach to any coffee. You have to come from Batangas. Okay, of course, trade secrets are all protected. Okay, now this is how the intellectual property code defines what are intellectual property rights. Okay, again, we already went through them. Notice number 4, layouts and topographies of integrated circuits. If you are, for example, in the hardware industry, not the software industry, if you are, for example, cutting integrated circuits and computer circuits, the layout of computer circuits, for example, if you are, for example, if you are using a laptop to view this lecture, your laptop probably contains an integrated circuit created by Intel. Okay, my computer in front of me has an Intel Core 17 i7, and it's an 8th generation. If you take that computer chip and look at it under the microscope, the layout of that is actually intellectual property. And no one is allowed to reproduce that topography unless you are licensed by the original creator of that integrated circuit. Okay. Protection of undisclosed information, of course, trade secrets are also protected as a kind of intellectual property. Now, let me just stress this in the next probably the next 10 minutes. Okay, intellectual property as property, medyo redundant, right? Why are intellectual property to begin with? Okay, intellectual properties are real properties because they have the same properties of tangible properties. A while ago, I started this lecture by pointing out that my cell phone is a tangible property. Ito, nakita ninyo. Okay, and from Roman law, we know that tangible properties like your car, like your cell phone, have certain characteristic that they call the hus. Okay, the hus, meaning rights. Okay, and Roman law describes ownership as essentially a set of hus or rights, and it's in front of you in this slide. Okay, so if you own, for example, the cell phone, you have the first right that you have is what we call hus potendi. Hus potendi is the right to use. Okay, so that if I own this cell phone, naturally I have the right to use it. Okay, and I also have the right to exclude others from using it. Okay, so that if I lose my cell phone, if your cell phone allows it, you can actually block your cell phone. If you, for example, one feature of modern smartphones like the iPhones or a Samsung Galaxy is that you can actually lock it remotely. So if you lose your iPhone today, if you know how to activate the app, you can actually block your iPhone and no one can use it. Hus potendi. In fact, the technology for blocking cell phone has been so revolutionary in the last 2 years that a lost iPhone is practically useless nowadays in the hands of a thief. Wala, hindi niya magagamit yan. You cannot even reset it because you can find it. Okay, that's the first one, the right to use, hus potendi. Okay, the second right, of course, is called hus possendi. An object can be possessed, okay, just like a cell phone. Okay, now, of course, in hus potendi, let me just back in hus potendi. Intellectual property means that if you're the creator, you can use it and you can actually prevent others from using it. If you create a song, you can prevent others from using it. You can actually command another person not to use it. For example, if you have a very valuable song and some politician is using it as a campaign jingle without your consent, you can actually ask that politician or that campaign to stop use from stop. You can ask them to stop using your song. Okay, who's utendi? Just in the same way that I can ask someone to stop using my cell phone if I lose it. Okay, who's posendi? Of course, I possess this. The definition of possession in the civil code is the holding of a thing, I'm holding it, and the exercise of a right. Of course, I'm not just holding onto the cell phone, but I'm also holding onto a right. Okay, the same thing happens when it comes to intellectual property. It can be possessed. Okay. The third, of course, is that who's pruendi? When you own property, you have the right to use its fruits. If an object has fruits, for example, by buying the cell phone, for example, if I'm automatically entitled to join a raffle of Samsung, and I win in that raffle, I am that prize in the raffle is actually a fruit that I acquired because I own this tangible property. The same is true with your intellectual property. If, for example, you have an invention, for example, you invented a better light bulb, and you decide to sell your rights, the proceeds from the sale is actually a fruit, and that belongs to you as the creator of that new invention, that new more improved version of a light bulb. Okay. The fourth cause is who's the destruendi. If I own property, I can destroy it. Diba? So part of the dominion over property is that we have actually the right to destroy whatever property we own. Okay? So that while it is unthinkable, I can actually destroy the cell phone. Diba? In the same way, for example, that if I have an intellectual, for example, I wrote a song, I may opt not to publish it. And instead, just destroy my computer file so that no one can hear that song, that lovely song that I created. Okay. And lastly, of course, is who's disponendi. Who's disponendi, of course, is your right to dispose of an object. Okay. Just in the same way that I have the right to dispose of my property. Okay, what other property do I have in front of me right now other than my cell phone? Here, this my eyeglass case here, for example. If you own tangible property, you can dispose of it. You can donate it, give it to another person. You can sell it, and the same applies to intellectual property. If, for example, you wrote a song, you can sell it. Or if you're quite magnanimous, you can even donate it to another person or donate it to another individual. Or you can donate it to an organization. For example, if you are writing praise music, okay, you can donate it to your church or your congregation for them to use gratis without having to pay any royalty. Okay, so true to my promise, this is now my 30th minute in this presentation, and we have no cases to discuss because this is an introductory lecture, and because of that, I will end my presentation here, but I will open the floor to some questions as to in relation to our topic this afternoon, which is intellectual property. So thank you very much. And please just open your microphone if you have some questions. I think we can entertain a few questions.
Thank you so much. Attorney Jose Venerci Ibarra. Again, likewise, similar to our first speaker, Attorney Miko, 30 minutes not enough. You broke your policy of 45 and regressed to 30 minutes. We highly appreciate the professional courtesy. But of course, we give the floor to you. You just mentioned you can accommodate 3 more, and there may be participants who may have other engagements. So again, I'm sure that Attorney Ibarra and Attorney Alban will be disclosing their contact details, no, via SPC. So we now open the floor to maybe 2 or 3 questions, just to release your intellectual properties right now, given the presentation of our second speaker. I will go through the participants list and try to see if there are any hands raised. Otherwise, to save time, can my ice break, Attorney Ibarra? So just to tickle the fancy of our friends in Zoom right now. Actually, I have a question here from our auditor of the MBA DBA Executive Board, Mr. Wilmark Dave A. Camado, our security officer. No? Question, sir. Nothing like the scenario of Attorney Miko, no? But I don't have GCash right now, but your answer, I'm sure, will be priceless. Your company has developed a unique product design that you believe qualifies for design patent protection. Attorney, what steps would you take to file for a design patent and secure your intellectual property rights?
Okay. Of course, for patent, unlike copyright, that copyright is actually protected the moment you create it. Okay, so if I'm, for example, writing a song tonight and I have my co-author in writing that song is Paul McCartney.
Mhm.
We own that. Napaka ano yun, no? Then the moment we create that song, protection exists. Okay,
All right.
so that if, for example, Sir Paul McCartney would steal that song from me without my consent, even without, for example, submitting that to the National Library or the Library of Congress of the United States, I have rights already. So that if he claims exclusivity to that song that we co-wrote, diba, sabihin ko, oh, ninakaw ni Sir Paul McCartney yung song ko, we co-wrote it, then we'll be protected. But as far as patent is concerned, patents are protected only upon registration. So, and of the 3, you have copyright, you have patents, and service marks and trademark. The most stringent requirements are in patents, okay, because patent is highly technical. In fact, if you are submitting a patent application, you will need to file a very detailed technical description of what you have invented. Okay, so again, this is in the realm of engineers. Diba? For example, if you're patenting a design of a light bulb, a new light bulb, meron ka na inventong bagong light bulb na may innovation, you will have to describe that in technical language. Okay, again, that is my handicap. I'm not an engineer. I'm not even a mechanical engineer. I'm a psychologist by training and a lawyer. Diba? But if you are, for example, a mechanical engineer, then you can describe the invention. Diba? If for example, your invention is in civil works, then you describe it. That is how you proceed. Okay, there is a detailed. If you have an invention, the best person to talk to right now first would be an engineer, because the application in the intellectual property office for your patent is highly technical.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
if it's copyright and service marks, my second-year students in Ateneo have been trained to file. Modesty aside, my students in college, my undergrad, are quite capable of filing, given their limited training, trademark and copyright applications.
Wow. Wow. It is an honor, Attorney Ibarra, and I hope we can have that same qualities, no, shared at SPC. But Devin, you mentioned that you're a psychologist. I have an obsessive compulsive question here. Maybe we can have one more question on behalf of the participants. Your company has discovered that a competitor is using your trade secret or trade secrets to gain a competitive advantage. Attorney, how would you handle this situation and protect our or your trade secret rights?
First, of course, your trade secret has to be documented. Kasi kung walang documentation yan, that will be difficult. Okay. Now, if for example you have proper documentation and the process and the trade secret is and you have created the documentation ahead of time. Okay, there are several remedies available to you. Okay, the first obvious remedy, of course, is the remedy of injunction. Okay, you can enjoin. You can file a mandatory injunction to prevent that person or that entity from making further disclosure of your secrets. Okay, and perhaps quickly you can get a TRO, temporary restraining order, leading to an injunction, a permanent injunction. Okay, your other remedies, of course, are damages. Of course, by exposing this company secret, definitely your company will suffer. So there is actually a remedy available for you to seek damages for the income that you will lose because of the disclosure, of course. And of course, you can also explore the criminal aspect. For example, if the disclosure was obtained through, say, industrial espionage, say a former employee. Of course, industrial espionage is also punishable as a criminal offense. Okay, if the information was obtained through fraud or deceit, you can actually file for estafa. Okay, so there are the long and short answer here is, of course, there are administrative remedies available via the Intellectual Property Office. There are civil remedies to prevent the further disclosure. Okay, and there are civil remedies in the realm of damages, and also, of course, there could be criminal remedies if the act that led to the disclosure was obtained through some criminal act.
Attorney Ibarra, they say time flies so fast when you're having fun, and it has
Thank
been
you.
learning fun with you and of course Attorney Miko. Kulang na kulang po ang oras, ang dami pa pong tanong. May I just conclude this with this statement? Data privacy and intellectual property rights are essential aspects of our digital lives, ladies and gentlemen, shaping how we protect our information and innovation. By understanding the legal frameworks, adopting best practices, and staying informed about emerging trends, we can all navigate the complexities and safeguard our data and intellectual assets effectively. On behalf of the SPC, MBA, and DBA Executive Board, together with our professors, we would like to thank our two esteemed gentlemen speakers for today. And we do hope that each and every one of you have found today's webinar truly informative and empowering. Now, before we conclude formally, any parting shot, Dr. Ibarra, that we may have any additional intellectual thoughts for us to remember? Well, other than that, I'd like to call Dr. Randall Pasco to award the Certificate of Recognition to our second speaker for today's webinar. Dr. Randall?
Thank you so much, Randy. It is indeed an honor and privilege to present this Certificate of Recognition to our valued guest speaker for today. Allow me to read the citation. San Pablo Colleges, Graduate School of Business Administration, San Pablo City, Laguna. Certificate of Recognition is hereby awarded to for sharing his valuable insights and expertise as guest speaker in a seminar entitled Data Privacy Act and Intellectual Property Rights by Zoom platform. Given this on a 20th day of May 2023, signed Dr. Joseph Alfred Emery Rosa, CPA, Advisor, GSBA Student Council, signed Mr. Luwin Morizay R. Esidillo, GSBA Student Council President, signed Dr. Venus C. Ibarra, CPA, Dean, MBA, DBA Program. This Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Attorney Jose Vener C. Ibarra.
Thank you, Dr. Nonato. You're most kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Randall Pasco. We would like to thank you, Attorney Jose Vener C. Ibarra, and once again, Attorney Norly Miko Alban for both your precious time. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants, we have now reached the end of our enlightening webinar on data privacy and intellectual property rights. Before we conclude, I would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our exceptional speakers for sharing their invaluable insights and expertise with all of us today. Their knowledge and passion for the subjects of data privacy and intellectual property rights have truly